In Matthew's book, Jesus said, go into all the land, take the word, share it, teach it, preach it.
Hello, this is Dr. Gregg Mays with your Word Wednesday. This week, I want to talk about two people from the Bible that you probably never heard spoken about together. They weren't ever together, but just their stories and how they intertwine. One of them is Hagar. Hagar, who's that? Well, Hagar is the woman who fathered Abraham's first child. His name was Ishmael. The way that Hagar comes on the scene is God tells Abram at the time becomes Abraham, you're going to have a child. You're going to have a son. Well, he doesn't think that he can at his old age. Sarai, who becomes Sarah, doesn't think that she can at her old age. And so they conspire together, and Sarai says, I will give you my maidservant, Hagar. So Hagar is a maidservant. She's the slave. So when her mistress says, go sleep with my husband, I'm giving him to you as a wife, well, she's going to do that. And so she did. Well, she became pregnant. And in chapter 16 of Genesis, the Bible tells us that once she was pregnant, she started kind of being not so nice, not so good to Sarai. So Sarai was upset. It was almost as if Hagar was picking at her or poking fun at her that she wasn't pregnant. We don't know specifically what happened. So Sarai says, we got to get rid of her. And Abraham says, she's in your hands. And so she begins to mistreat Hagar, and Hagar heads out. And while she's out, watch this, the angel of the Lord comes to her and says, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? What are you doing out here? Where are you going? And Hagar says, I'm running away from my mistress. And then they have a conversation, and it goes down and say, listen to this. The angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now pregnant and you will give birth to a son. You shall call him Ishmael. For the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. In other words, this is going to be somebody that it may be a bit wild, but watch this. I hear you. You're going to have a son. This is how your son's going to be. But don't worry. You go back and you submit to Sarai. Don't worry about that. It's almost as if God is saying, hey, this is not your fault. This is their fault. And they're going to have to deal with that. And so God does take care of her. Even when Ishmael is born and eventually Isaac is born and Hagar and Ishmael are kicked out, when they think, over in chapter 21, when they think, we're doomed, the angel of the Lord, God, shows up again and takes care of them. I encourage you to run over there and see that. Now watch this. David also was put in a very peculiar spot. He gets anointed king of Israel. And then the next thing we see him back out with those sheep, those few sheep that we're going to hear his brothers say when he goes forward to bring his brothers food and to look out for them, and his brothers treat him poorly. Why? Because they feel like they can. But David is a man of God. And so he doesn't act otherwise. And he eventually is kind of underestimated by his brothers. He's underestimated by King Saul, even though King Saul, says, go ahead and fight Goliath. But he underestimates him. Here, take my armor. David says, I don't need your armor. It's too awkward for me. Then when he goes out to meet Goliath underestimates him, mistreats him, if you will, with his words. And what's the ultimate thing? Goliath does not live another day. Why? Because God was with David. Are you feeling that you're down, you're an underdog, people don't appreciate you, they don't understand the struggles that you have? God does. just like he understood the struggles that Hagar had, just like he understood the struggles that David had. He understands your struggle. The only question is, are you going to trust him? You know, Hagar had a rough life in front of her when she went back. We don't read about that, but why would we not think that she was, all of a sudden she's going to be treated well? Probably not. But she went back. Why? Because God said, go back there. I got you. David, having slew Goliath, having vindicated Israel, is now living cave to cave. We see him living cave to cave. Why? Because Saul, the very man that he honored in killing Goliath, is now chasing after him to kill him. Are you struggling? If so, God is the answer. Won't you turn to him and allow him to help you, even in this season of difficulty? I pray that this is a blessing for you, and remember, stay strong.
So what you waiting for? Someone to feel the pain some more? Cause you ain't share the love, the grace you found within the Father's care. To share the love of God is more than just a simple job. It's Christ being the root of the Holy Spirit law. Share it.